Hello, this is Luke Bergdorf again. I'm here with Mr. Preston Jordan. Mr. Jordan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I was looking for a job in 1958 and tried the police department, and they wasn't hiring, but they said, go down the street here. I think they're hiring. So I went down there and started. Three of us started Clyde Truex. Uh, I can't think of his name. And three of us. So oh, uh, Mike was the old chief, and he says, I wish you'd let this guy go to work first, because he said he's got a bunch of kids. So I said, yeah, that'd be fine. So he went, and then the other one, and then I started like I think August 1st or something like that, 58. Started out with Station 2, was working with Martin and Chief Martin. I can't think of his name either. Uh, and stayed there about 3 months, I think, and then I went to one with Homer Wilson. He was a chief, and I'd known Charles Gooden for a while in school and everything. And anyway, he did help me get on, so I worked with him. And our procedure would be if something came in, uh, the tanker would go, the rescue would go, uh, and the engine. And I would pull up to the office, and Hoss Gary was the engineer, and he would go in and put it out on radio, and then he'd come back, drive off. So that went on pretty well. But one time the same situation came, and so I pulled it up, and Hoss said, "No," he said, "you go ahead and drive." Been there a few months,
Mm-hmm.
driving the engine. But anyway, I did, and from then on, for a long time, I was the engineer, not prolific. I mean, it didn't make any difference between them, but I had the job, and I enjoyed the engine. I learned everything there was to know, because no one else had, did a study on it, or really, they didn't lay too many lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, I started laying reverse lays, but I'd go ahead and lay one, and got some compliments. The volunteers said, "Boy, that was fast." But all I did was, just hook up to the hydrant, and open it up, and had pretty good pressure, enough to start until I could set the pressure. And we uh, we even got some studies, and really thoroughly, you how to operate the engine, uh, all kinds of ways. I, I, I had Terry Rutledge was my engineer one time, and we had a fire up on the old Moore home, funeral home
Yes,
Moore,
sir.
and it was next to the turnpike. But we got up there, and looked like it was going to be a good fire. So I told Terry, I said, "Terry, I said, see if you can get that engine down there on that tank, you know." And so he did. And one other time, we usually engine out at the lake, had a fire there, and somebody, I don't know who the engineer was, but I told him, I said, "Well, just drive out in the lake, um, get far enough, you know, you can get a good draft, and so he did, and we used it again. That's the only two times I knew of that the engine was, you know, pulled in like that.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, I enjoyed it very much. Uh, in '65, well, I became a captain, and I had to learn how to fight fires then. So that was a good time. Uh, I don't. I don't know anything else. Once you ask me some
Yeah.
questions or something.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Arlington, or were you from the area?
Uh, yes, moved there in moved from Oklahoma to Grand Prairie in '47, and moved to Arlington. I think is '49, and lived there until
What?
well, I had moved out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I was living out here somewhere, and I had to move back into Arlington. You know, because I worked for the city. That was the law then.
Mm-hmm.
Now it would be all right. And
How old were you when you got hired?
I think I was, 18.
18. Was it your first job?
Oh no, I had a lot of jobs before that.
What did you do before?
Uh, I worked on a surveying crew for a while, uh, and no really good jobs. I mean, I think I had 8 uh, deals to turn into. Um, I'm sorry, to the government. You know, income tax.
Mm-hmm.
You have to uh, bear with me.
That's fine.
I've had COVID, and it was 2021 September, and I thought I was in the hospital for 7 days. I thought, boy, I get out of here. I'm styling. I'm going back, and it didn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled around and until lately, but I got into long COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just it hurt me. Uh, the I'll skip or try to think of something, you know, and I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And it I've got an appointment with in Dallas the 28th to have major surgeries. So
Mm-hmm.
I
They
don't know.
say COVID kind of can fog the brain to
It
where
it does.
it
It,
confuses you.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Um, it's it's fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I kept on thinking, you know, I was gonna get back on track, work out, and everything, and it didn't happen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if I can get past this operation. I don't know how I will be.
Yes, sir.
I'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, sir. Well, when
Uh,
you got hired, what was your ID number?
17.
17,
Uh,
and that was in 1958.
uh-huh.
How many stations were there?
4. I was hired for the station on Randall Mill, number 4, then.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, they hired what? I guess they hired 9 people or fill the station up.
To open up the station.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was a new station.
And when you got hired, was there a training process that you went through?
Yeah, we had Pat Martin was the assistant chief at that time, and he was, I went out with him, uh, and Buck Burton was the other guy, the Station 2, and spent that few months out there. But he was a good trainer.
Mm-hmm.
He'd take us out, and eventually we got a training officer, uh, Henry Griffin, mate. What was a training officer? I don't know exactly what time, if he was the first or not. But anyway, yeah, we had some, stuff set up. Had a fire ground down at on the, I don't know what the name of that street is, but it's the same. I guess. Do you ever? No, no, it's not the same training. The last is out there at the lake, but the first one was Fort Lane or something over behind the Masonic buildings.
I think right now it's where the Cowboy Stadium is, or the.
Oh, well, it might be. But anyway, we had a little bit of training. Uh, it was all good because, you know, we didn't start out with the knowledge. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was slow.
What about do you remember your first shift showing up to work for the first time?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was with Pat Martin and Buck Burton at Station 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I strolled in there in blue jeans, and Pat said, "Well, so let's get you some proper clothing." So we went down to Central and I got suited out with khakis. But it was a it was a learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we didn't. I can't remember any big fires that we had at that time. Uh, we at one time, well, Bill McFadden was my officer. I was an engineer, and at Station 2, and we started working on the apartments. I mean, we'd have an apartment fire, and we'd lose it because it would run, through the attic. And Bill was real good with paperwork and everything, and he got that started and that stopped, and that helped us immensely because you start have a fire on one end, and then a few minutes later it's at the other end.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to control. But yeah,
So he helped with the kind of putting fire stops in apartment attics and
right,
everything.
right,
That's good.
yeah. Uh,
What kind of the department you hired in to open up Station 4?
hmm
And were there were volunteers still at the time?
Oh yeah.
What was it like running with the volunteers?
Well, it was kind of tough. Some of them wanted to, you know, drive my engine, and it's hard to, tell somebody, no, we're going to a fire. We'll take care of it later. But they were good. There's a few of them. Buddy Huffman worked the electric and pulled the meters, for us. Uh, that's all he did, but that was great.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't remember any more of them, but uh, they were had good intentions and good guys.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't do a whole lot of firefighting or go in,
Yes, sir.
but they would deploy hose and help you out lighting and fans, and we're going to set up any way they could. So I don't know what the date was whenever they quit, but
You said Chief Thompson was the fire chief.
yeah,
What
Mike,
what was
Mike,
he like?
he was a crippled old man. Really, he used to be a policeman, and he had a motorcycle, and he had a wreck, and that completely, you know, did him in. Uh, but he would, get around, and he would depend on the officers at the fire, to make the decisions and everything. He wasn't a real good firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
but he had Pat Martin was assistant chief, and finally Pat became the chief. When it went downtown to one, and I think it started growing then,
Mm-hmm.
and getting a little bit of knowledge. Uh,
Did any of those guys who had been there a good while, whenever you got there, talk about kind of the days before you got there? Um, Back whenever it was all volunteer, before any of those
I,
fire stations had opened up?
I can't remember anything uh, about them talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
or tales or whatever. Uh, Talking about the horse-drawn days.
Yeah.
No,
Now, I guess when you started, they were only running fires and car accidents. Y'all hadn't started in the EMS field, or
no, no, we hadn't. I don't know when that started, what year, but yeah, we finally got into it.
mm-hmm. What were some of the more notable fires in your career?
Uh, the worst one was I guess my last big fire, Park Plaza. Um, that I don't know how many apartments was involved, but there was a lot of apartments up there, and we were first in. I went in with two guys, and I told them, I said, I mean, had like fires in two different places really, and I said, get your spanner wrenches out, start knocking doors, and we got a lot of people out of there, but that uh, because of the way that happened, and we burned up a bunch of apartments. Uh, I remember Gene Larson was on the ladder. He come in and he said, "Where do you want this?" And I said, "Right over here." We spotted it, and then I was walking back out to the front, and here come Bob Burton with his crew laying a big line, which is you get it hooked up, it put out a lot of water,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a good place for them to hook onto that aerial appliance. And I don't know why, but he went on past that right beside it and went down in another apartments or something. But if he had hooked up to that aerial appliance, it we could have saved a bunch of apartments. I don't know what their theory was, but it turned out that if you brought an appliance in, aerial appliance, you saw to it,
Mm-hmm.
to get water. So uh, I was on the engine almost all the time. I was on the aerial appliance one time. We was out at 6, and I liked that. I mean, I never had done it, but anyway, we had a fire, and I got to set up and work on it, with that aerial appliance. Uh, they're great. Of course, you don't put out any fires with it, but inside.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but you can put it out after everything's gone. But
Are there any other calls that you still remember?
Yes. Uh, I remember those baby calls that they drowned in the pool, in the apartment. Um, I don't like to work with the babies, but we had a guy there that was good, uh, and young kids too. We had a fire on South Cooper, and there was two small children in there, and Henry Griffin was the battalion chief, and we worked on one, and Roy Brazier, I think, worked on the other. But I don't know. I don't remember what happened to them, but most of the time they don't make it. But
What were kind of, you said um, you were a driver for a good while,
yeah.
and you talked about kind of the reverse lay.
Hmm.
Was that a common tactic that y'all used on fires? Was leaving the hose
Yeah.
at the front of the house and
Right.
positioning the engine
Hmm.
at the hydrant?
To the hydrant. Yeah.
How well did that work out?
Well, evidently it worked pretty good because we didn't have any problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's all I ever used,
Yeah.
unless we got into some fire where we had to relay.
Was there a time that y'all transitioned into a forward lay where you would
Never,
never?
no, it never did.
Mhm.
It might be the best. I don't know, but
And you became an officer, you said in 1965.
hmm,
Did you go from driver to captain?
yeah,
What was that like?
that was what I say. I had to learn how to fight fire.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was good for me, but I still I'd always loved the engine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Were there any training? Was there any sort of officer training that they gave y'all on how to lead a crew or how to make decisions?
I'm sure there was all
Yeah.
kinds. Yeah, we had you know a lot of training. We go out and lay lines and work on the engine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we when they started the services, on medical calls, uh, we didn't train as much. But at while I was at two, I was at two for a good while, and we kind of try to conserve ourselves and take a nap uh, because we'd probably be up all night. There was a hot station, and I maintained four sometime, but uh, a lot of the times it was just three.
Mm-hmm. What was kind of some of the equipment that y'all used in regards to tools uh, and kind of some of the gear y'all had?
Well, the truckers got the what do you call it? The big I don't know what you call it. The deal had a lot of power.
Oh,
So
the spreaders and cutters, the
yeah,
jaws of
yeah,
life and everything.
yeah. The truckers, got in on that, and I don't know. I can't recall a lot of equipment that you used.
Was your uh was your bunker gear that you had uh Was it pretty new whenever you got it? Was it nice, sort of nice gear?
Oh yeah, it was.
Did y'all use air packs whenever you started?
We started off with sling packs, you know, and they they really wasn't any good. But you know, we went to the other packs, yeah, that lasted a little while. And our fallacy was that we'd go in and put out the fire, and then we'd stay there and work it till it was completely gone. And I think that there was a lot of gases, latter part, we we'd go in and do whatever, and then come out and two more people would, go in. So that's a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But so we got a lot of experience inside anyway.
Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned Pat Martin, Chief Martin.
Yeah.
What was he working? What was he like working with him?
Uh, well, Pat and I knew each other real well. Lived almost neighbors there in Arlington, but he and I got along good. And then he he got Bill McFadden to come in as assistant chief,
Mm-hmm.
and I had worked with Bill for a long time there at Station 2. And so we got along good. Got along, you know, he had problems at City Hall, I think, but, not with me.
Mm-hmm.
So we started getting new chiefs. I can't think of one from California came in. And
Strickland?
yeah, Bill. And we had a fire over on 360. And we chopped a hole up in the top, and it was at night, of course, and it was real evident, it was a lot of show in there. And he praised us for that. But I think that was the first one that, we opened up like that. But anyway, uh, all kinds of techniques.
You said you started in 1958. What year did you retire?
90, January of 90.
January 90. What were some of the biggest differences between when you started and when you retired?
Well, really, we just learned a lot in those years.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we started from uh, the horse drawn carriages, which was it's real easy, to get past that. But there was a lot of time spent on training, uh, being able to lay lines, and we were famous for apartment fires, uh, and we I don't know whether we had a procedure for them or not, but we had a lot, and we learned a lot, how to fight those apartment fires. We mostly had houses, so they wasn't that difficult to figure out. But we tried to get there, uh, see what the situation was, and go in and put it out, or if it was in a third stage, back off and let it let it go, put it out with a little squirt of water in the window.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was amazing to me how that worked. Uh, it was, but I guess just things like that, and just general knowledge.
What was kind of hanging out at the station like whenever you weren't running calls? What?
Uh, Well, these guys are it's different than like a family or something with firemen. You get to know them real well, and you depended on them, 100%. So it was good. Uh, I enjoyed that. When I retired, well, my wife said, "You're gonna wish that you were back there working." And I said, "Well, I would like to, just pull up to a station and, and pull up in front of one of the trucks, engine or truck, and just get out and walk around there and see what had happened."
Mm-hmm.
And I did that, and finally, it was about a matter of 10 or 15 minutes, and nobody knew me. And so finally, one of the officers walked out, and I knew him. But I shouldn't have done that, I don't guess. But I just got a kick out of it. But I'd go in there and watch TV with them, and they'd have a fire, and I'd say, "Well, y'all go fight the fire. I'm gonna keep the TV on." But it's great. I mean, when you live with someone like that day after day, it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you respect them, do what you can for them, and I don't, I don't guess I ever got real cross with anyone, you know. So to angle a fight,
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that. So
Were there any signature meals that you cooked, or?
yeah, yeah. If it's my turn to cook, I'd ask them. I said, "Well, what do y'all want today?" And they said, "Steak, taters, and gravy." So yeah,
The good old classic meat and potatoes?
yeah,
Was there a lot of a horseplay or a lot of pranks going on?
yeah. There was some cases wasn't well. We get into at one. We get into a water fight and get every damn thing wet. Uh, but one at two, it wasn't me, but Forrest Civil and his crew got into a I don't know what you call it. It wasn't actually a fight, but they would try to scare somebody, and they would get up on top of the roof. Somebody would walk up and scare them. I didn't get in on that, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. But there was probably a lot of stuff like that, going.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Did you do anything after you retired?
oh yeah, um, I was a fertilizer guy. Uh, I sold a lot of fertilizer, the big trucks, big tanks,
Mm-hmm.
everything around here for I don't know years. And finally, our grandchildren came and started uh, doing more with them and quit that. But but that was a good season too. I enjoyed it because I got to meet all of the people around here, especially farmers,
Mm-hmm.
and growing their crops and everything. So
Did you retire as a captain?
mhm, yeah, yep.
What do you miss most about being a Arlington fireman?
I miss the people. the guys. I mean, you have a relationship with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's I'd say it's probably the only relationship you have, uh, besides your family. But anyway, I
Well,
I enjoyed the department up to the last day.
mm-hmm. Looking back on your career, would you do it all over again?
Yeah, it was a. I tried to go to work for the police department, and I'm glad I didn't make it because I wouldn't be there very long. I don't think. Uh, we didn't have a good relationship with the police,
Mm-hmm.
but
Would you change anything about the way your career went?
uh, maybe uh, I would took the chief's test twice, and last time I come out, I think third or something like that. But the guy that made it was I understand that later that he was helped out a whole lot. I mean, and I knew him. I worked with him. I knew his capabilities, and he didn't really do very good after he made chief. But anyway, I said, "Well, I said that's it. I'll be a captain the rest of my life." And Bill Shanklin built a house right down the road here, and we was talking one day. He said, "Well," he said, "you're going to take that test?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm not." I said, "You go ahead." And he did. He was an excellent, excellent guy. Uh, did everything he could to, improve
Mm-hmm.
the department. And if you'd listen to him, well, you would learn something too. And he went ahead and made chief of several cities. And his son, the young one, made battalion chief. What station is he at?
He's on a different shift than
Is,
I am.
is he?
Yes, sir.
But I remember one time turned on the TV, and see someone swinging out there on AT&T Stadium, and that was him. I
Really?
found out later. I think it was ice built up on there, just trying to keep the ice off. It didn't fall, but and his first son went to Denton, and he became a judge. So good people.
Mm-hmm.
But they lived out here for as long as he could. I don't know how many years that was.
Was there anybody else in the department that you think really had a good impact on how Arlington ran things and just really made a positive impact in the department as a whole?
Well, that would be someone like Shanklin, uh, and I think he was held back a little bit too. Couldn't do what he wanted, but he was a great guy, a great chief. You know,
What did, what sort of advice, kind of looking back on your career, if you were to talk with a brand new firefighter just getting into the career, what advice would you give them?
hmm. I love the job myself, and I try to tell them, you know, whatever you can do, uh, learn what you can learn, get your medical, become a paramedic, and I was hauling fertilizer from North Fort Worth, and this guy, we got acquainted, everything. He said, I think I'll go see if I can get on. And he did. But he went to Dallas. And of course, I think now he's retired. I can't even remember his name. But he enjoyed it, made a good hand, accomplished a lot. So it's just an open deal. But some, if I don't know, I'd hate to evaluate people and say, well, you're not going to make it. But most of them will, I mean, if they have good intentions, the right education and everything, I think it'll do good.
Mm-hmm.
I said, talked to several people like that. One guy came out there and he was my engineer. He said, I'm going to have to leave. And I said, how come? He said, well, my knees not going to stand it, operate on my knees. I said, don't blame you. I said, get another job, and he talked to someone, he said, I can't believe that he told me, was for me, for the people, not the department. And you gotta be decent and try to give them something good.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other stories or any other uh, experiences you'd like to share with everybody?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much
Oh
for your
yeah,
time.
yeah, you bet.